Welcome to another episode of Boom and Bust. I'm your host, Tony Clement, here at the News Forum where all voices matter. As economic storm clouds gather, it's a good time to check in with our monthly panel. Joining us for this session is former Canadian Finance Minister, the Honourable Joe Oliver, former Ontario Trade Minister, Sandra Pupatello, and as we tape during the Calgary Stampede, former Alberta Cabinet Minister and now head of the Canada West Foundation, the Honourable Gary Marr. Welcome back to all of you.
Great to be here.
Thanks, Tony.
Well, as we're taping today, obviously the big news, economic news in the country is the interest rate hike, 100 basis points or a full percentage point. Let's start with you, Joe. What's your sense of this? What does this mean for the economy?
Well, it's going to eventually have a negative effect on the economy, and the Bank of Canada understands that. But unfortunately, they're late to the party. And they weren't alone in that respect. The U.S. Federal Reserve Board was also late in recognizing that inflation wasn't going to be transitory. It was going to be quite powerful. And both central banks have admitted their mistake. But here we are. And the result of that is they're going to have to move faster and more brutally. And a 100 basis point move is one that we haven't seen, I think, in a couple of decades. And it certainly will have an impact on economic growth, on spending, on just the way people perceive their own personal financial situation. But the central banks really don't have much choice now. Inflation is the single mandate of the Bank of Canada, and it's one of two mandates of the U.S. Fed. The other one being employment, although employment is in a sort of a secondary way also a concern for the Bank of Canada. But both central banks have indicated they're going to be focusing on inflation. They just can't let it get out of hand. And even with these rates, there's a huge gap between the rates and what the inflation rate is. And in May, it was 7.7%, moving up probably to over 8%. And in the United States, we just heard the number, I think it was this morning, at 9.1%. Right. So this is a serious issue, and all of us are feeling it. But of course, some much more than others. People on fixed income are being hurt. Younger people who want to buy their first homes are without parental help, just really have no hope. And then, of course, those least economically advantaged, the poor people in the country are going to be devastated by it.
Gary,
so
yeah,
they have to deal with it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Gary Marr, is that your sense of things too? What's your sense of things?
Look, I couldn't hope to say as much about monetary policy as the Honourable Joe Oliver, but Joe was saying earlier that Canadians might not understand monetary policy, but they understand what mortgage rates are, and it is having an impact, very much having a chilling effect. I certainly know people in Vancouver who had house deals that they were going to complete. They've decided to walk away from them because the change in the interest rate. It is having a chilling effect on sales in places like Alberta. And so in a very real way, it's affecting ordinary Canadians. I've heard perhaps one prime minister said, "Forgive me if I don't know the details of monetary policy." Well, I think it's important to really know how it affects ordinary Canadians, even if you don't understand what monetary policy is.
Sandra, is that your perspective as well? How do you think this is impacting?
Well, we sat down with a pencil this morning to sort out what does this mean to someone living in the GTA with $1 million mortgage. This is probably another $10,000 a year in cost. Just that 1% increase that was announced today. So that's on top of the 1%, which was maybe 0.25s. So by the time you add all that up, they probably in the last year and a half, if they had variable, they're looking at $20,000 to $25,000 more a year. Now, other reports will say how many Canadians are living so close to the edge with every monthly paycheck. I'm not sure that divided by 12, the $1,000 a month that's going to send them over the edge. So we might see a major shakeup in housing, especially around GTA, where those mortgages really are pretty major.